Guys, coming back for the X-Files, Season 10, Episode 5, Babylon, and I was really looking forward to this episode. We only have 2 episodes left, guys. I mean, I can't believe it, but this is going by so fast. Next week is what they're calling season finale, because I believe they're doing more. Hopefully, that's true. But let's get into this episode, because I absolutely love this episode, and by far the best episode of the season. I loved this episode. I mean, Episode 3 was really good, but this episode had everything I love about the show. It had some great heart. It was hilarious at points, and also introduced 2 really great characters that I really do hope we see again. So let's get into this episode, because like I said, I really did enjoy it. We start off with this Muslim man in prayer, and I have to say, out of all the beginnings of the show, this is probably the most what the fuck beginning yet. I mean, every episode it's like, what the hell's going on? But this one was just so strange. He's finishing and rolling up his prayer mat. He eats a sandwich, gets in his car, and it's Southwest Texas, and while he's at a stoplight, oogling a pair of pretty jaywalkers, he's hassled by a redneck in a pickup truck, and when he arrives at his destination, he's met by a man outside of a motel who greets him in Arabic. The pair ride together to a third location where they recite a quick prayer and get out. Moments later, the building they've entered erupts into an explosion, and already we pretty much have started the case. Crazy way to start the episode, but every episode of X-Files pretty much starts crazy, and I thought that was a great way to start it. And basically, later at the FBI, Mulder and Scully examine cell phone footage that seems to show trumpet music coming from nowhere, or as Mulder says, from the heavens themselves. And this episode really does get religious, but I applaud the show for that, because a lot of shows nowadays don't want to talk about religion, and this show actually did. This show got religious. They talked about things that, about God and things like that, and I like the show actually did that, because like I said, there are so many shows that aren't afraid, that don't want to do that, and you should. I mean, there are people out there that do really believe in God, and I am someone that is Catholic. I will definitely say that. I am Catholic, and I'm a good Christian and things like that. But there are some people that really believe in him like crazy, and they might just there are priests that like devote themselves to God and things like that. You should be able to touch upon those things, and I like that this episode, they weren't afraid to do that, because they shouldn't be. There's nothing really to be afraid of. There's really nothing to be afraid of there. So, witnesses believe it's the end of the world, as in Revelation, and as the pair are arguing about the validity of those sightings, or of the predictions of the Bible as a whole, somebody comes to their door. And to their surprise, it's a pair of young agents who basically are a young Scully and a young Mulder, and I really like seeing these 2 characters. They look remarkably like they did 23 years ago or so when they first teamed up on the X-Files. And we see Robbie Miller, who is played by Robbie Miller, who it's great to see him doing another show. I've always really liked this actor, and he is a profiler obsessed with the paranormal, like Mulder is, and she's Einstein, a medical doctor, like Scully is. So they're very much like a young version of them. I really like seeing Mulder and Scully mentor these 2, because it was really cool to see. I mean, you get to see the dynamic, you get to see how long they've been doing this. I just really like watching it. And these 2 I thought were very well handled. So one of the Muslim men, who are now assumed to have bombed a building over an unflattering depiction of Muhammad, is brain dead but still physically alive, and Miller hopes that Mulder can help communicate with the man, much to Einstein's chagrin. And like we said, Miller believes in the paranormal like Mulder does, and Einstein really doesn't believe in it. And unlike Scully, it seems like she really doesn't see it that way at all. Like, she's looking for a much more logical explanation, and Scully does too, but I think Mulder over the years has convinced Scully that this could be true, and Scully's been working with him for so long, while it seems like Miller and Einstein have not been working as long. So Miller hopes to commune with the bomber so that he can gain insight into other potential sleeper cells in the area, and Mulder tells him that he's unaware of anyone who might be able to give them supernatural help in communing with the near dead, because, there's no exorcist, there's no seance or anything, they can't really do anything about that, so they really don't know how to help them, and I like that they really didn't know what to do here. So, at the airport, the 2 are arguing about the X-Files. Here they continue to echo early season Scully and Mulder, and Scully calls Miller, who excused himself from Einstein. She tells him that she has an idea for how he might communicate with his terrorists, but she has to meet him in Texas. Meanwhile, Mulder calls Einstein and tells her the same thing, except that she needs to delay her trip to Texas and stay behind. So I like that Mulder went with Einstein and Scully went with Miller. It wasn't the other way around, because, that just wouldn't really work as well. It was kind of cool to watch, and a lot of times it felt like Scully was working with a young Mulder. I really like seeing that. So Einstein leaves to meet with Mulder, and Elsewhere, an Arabic man is working on bomb parts while listening to TV pundits scream at each other about the terrorist attack. And at Mulder's office, he starts a conversation with Einstein, who is almost immediately resistant. She doesn't want to hear about it. She doesn't believe in the things that he does, and she just wants more logical explanation. She does not want to listen to anyone who doesn't have a logical explanation, and she just is not interested. And I thought it was interesting to see that she's not interested. And again, it really echoes Scully from seasons ago. I don't remember Scully. Like I said, I haven't seen the show before, but I heard that Scully was a lot more tentative about these things, and it's clear that Einstein is as well. She's looking for logical explanations because, again, it just doesn't seem possible. These alien things, all these conspiracies that Mulder has, it doesn't seem true. It seems like something that he simply just believes in and something that isn't true. Again, he wants to believe. He doesn't believe, he just wants to believe. And it's clear that Einstein doesn't really believe. She wants to think there's a more logical explanation, and she doesn't really want to think that this could be true, because obviously everyone thinks she's crazy if they did. So at the airport in Texas, Miller greets Scully, who believes that there's a scientific way to reach out to the bomber. She says she wishes she had thought of it when her mother was in her coma. Good way to connect to last week. I like seeing that. She wishes that there was a way to do that, and because, last week her mother was in a coma and everything. And by the way, guys, I did not dislike last week's episode. I think some people thought I did. I didn't. I just was kind of disappointed by the way they handled the case in last week's episode. It's because in this episode, in episode 3, this case I thought was very well handled, I have to say. Definitely very good stuff here. So out in Mulder's office, he suggests to Einstein that scillabin mushrooms could help them commune with the terrorists. She rejects him, calling him a lunatic and telling him that she's never coming back and that that's a horrible idea. I mean, he's basically saying, hey, I'm going to take drugs and see if that works too with the terrorists, but she thinks this is a horrible idea, and she thinks that they really did something bad, and, this wasn't her idea. This was all Miller's idea. Miller was the one that thought Scully and Mulder could help them. Einstein really was never interested, so I like seeing that. So as the dying terrorist bedside, Scully wakes Miller through a way they might walks Miller through a way they may be able to communicate with the man. And as they're preparing to start a test, 2 men identify themselves as Homeland Security come in and start making threats and demands. And when Einstein arrives, she's surprised to find Scully inside, even after Miller chases off the Homeland Security guys by taking their photos and raising concerns that they aren't there for justice, but retribution. That's why they're there. And Einstein calls Mulder to Texas, frustrated by the Miller-Scully relationship. She's not like the way it's going, and you can kind of tell that she's a bit jealous. I mean, she clearly does like Miller, you can tell, and she doesn't want to admit it, but you can tell that she isn't really liking the way this dynamic is going. And as he exits the airport, Einstein hands Mulder a mushroom, admitting that she's jealous and suggesting they go someplace where it's safe to take the drug. And I like that she admitted that she was jealous about this, that she does not think that, she thinks they're going, Scully and Miller are working a lot better than her and Mulder. And I don't think it's because she likes Miller. I think there is a part of it that thinks she likes Miller, but I feel like it's more because they just work a lot better than Einstein and Mulder are. But it's mainly because she's resistant. She doesn't want to believe in the things that he does, and she, unlike Scully, is not going to listen to him because Scully has this connection to him. There's even a point in the episode where she says that she feels Scully believes him because she loves him. That's really what she thinks it is, and I think that's a big part of it, but at the same time, she's worked with him for so long that she's starting to believe it, and I think that's kind of why she believes most of what Mulder says, because she's just working with him for so long. So in the dying man's room, a new FBI agent comes in saying the hospital is under terror threat and they want to clear out the building. Miller and Scully are very skeptical and turn away, saying they're going to keep trying to communicate with the terrorists. And after they briefly leave the room, a nurse closes the door, turns off the man's breathing apparatus, and as he starts to code, Mulder and Einstein enter the room and the nurse is forced to turn the machines back on. Really crazy stuff. I mean, she just turned it off and then she had to turn it back on. And the nurse starts to rant about her hatred of Muslims and immigrants, and Einstein takes her outside to talk while Mulder sits in a chair next to the body, a mushroom on his tongue. And by the time Einstein is done listening to the woman, Mulder has already left the room, and we get what is by far the best scene of this entire season. I mean, this was amazing. I loved it. Everyone has said that Mulder's hilarious, and I do agree with that. I think he's been very funny, but this really was David Duchovny getting to channel how ridiculous and fun Mulder can be, and how you can just have fun with this character, and I loved it. Basically, he's wandering the hospital halls, then the street outside, then a nightclub in a drug-addled state. Ultimately, he ends up dancing to an enthusiastic crowd, a country western bar, at which point his fantasies start to get less and less plausible, with dancing girls, the lone gunman is there, and finally what looks like an abduction scenario, where he's being whipped by the Agent Einstein dressed as a dominatrix, and it really is crazy, I mean, what's going on here, but it really was very funny, especially when he was dancing at the country western bar. I really like seeing that. And then when he had the two things on his hand that said mushrooms, I lost it. Very funny. David Duchovny was hilarious here. Like I said, he really got to show his comedic chops, and I think he always has had them. But a lot of people said they don't really think Mulder got to be as funny this season. I think this was definitely showing that, yeah, he does have it in him, and I definitely like seeing that. Very funny stuff. Loved it. And like I said, he sees the lone gunman, finally what looks like an abduction scenario where he's being whipped by Agent Einstein, dressed as a dominatrix. That fades to the smoking man whipping him on board a boat rowed by hooded figures, which the smoking man, whatever happened to him? It seemed like they introduced him in the first episode just to introduce him, and then he's kind of gone away. I don't know if we're going to see him next week, but I thought we were going to see him this week. We did see this, but this isn't the actual smoking man. This is just Mulder fantasizing about it. So what's going to happen there? Was that just a tease of like what's to come, or that he's still out there? I'm not really sure, because they made it seem like the smoking man was going to be a huge part of this, and he's really hasn't been in the season at all. He's done absolutely nothing. So, the terrorist suspect is laying in the arms of a woman at the end of the boat. Mulder walks him and listens to a whisper. And elsewhere, a terrorist instructs a room full of men how to use their suicide bomber vests. And basically, we finally get out of the state. We see a terrorist instructs a room full of men how to use their suicide bomber vests. But like I said, I gotta say that scene was just awesome. I love seeing Mulder in this days. Awesome stuff. Really funny. Even though it got really serious towards the end, it was definitely very funny to begin with. So in the hospital room, Scully walks Miller through the process of questioning the dying terrorist. She's starting to get responses, but they have to figure out a baseline for responses because they don't know Arabic, obviously. They can't really translate. And Miller says he knows a little bit about, Arabic, just a little bit of it. I don't remember how, but he knows a little bit, but he doesn't really remember all of it, so they can't really do much there. So Mulder awakes in a hospital, and Skinner is at his bedside. Yes, finally we got to see Skinner. Skinner has been so severely underused all season long. We got to see him again. He's telling him that he's fired. Einstein says that she gave him a placebo last night, and everything he experienced was in his head, and Mulder tells him that the suspect talked to him, but he can't repeat it because it was in Arabic. And I love the scene where Mulder was like, "I was on fire, man," and Skinner says, "Oh, no, you are fired." I thought that was a really funny scene. Just a really funny line there. I like that, but I like that Einstein took the blame here. I thought that she was going to just, be a bitch about this and just let Mulder, get his job taken away, but I like that Einstein said, no, this was my fault. I gave him a placebo, you took too much of it, and Mulder tells him that the suspect talked to him, but he can't repeat it because it was in Arabic, and he can't remember what they said because he doesn't know Arabic. He can't really remember. So at the hospital, Einstein starts ranting at Mulder about how he's ruined her career. When Mulder gets ready to exit the hospital, runs into the woman who was holding the man's body in his vision, and it's the man's mother, who is terrified when she sees him, but goes on to talk to him anyway. She's sure he couldn't have killed anyone, that he lost his nerve when he saw the eyes of innocence at the scene of the attack that she's seen in her dreams. And as they're talking to his mother, asking her for help in identifying the men who put him up to it, her son just dies, and Mulder tells her group that the dead man had spoken to him in his dream. Outside the hospital room, Mulder starts reciting the Arabic that the man whispered in Mulder's dream, and on his recommendation, a group of agents make their way to the Babylon Hotel, where a terrorist cell are in mid-prayer when the FBI storms the room, takes him into custody. Later, an exhausted Miller and Einstein meet up at the airport, and he says that it's luckily, he was able to translate what he said. So, like I said, a group of agents make their way to the Babylon Hotel, where a terrorist cell are in mid-prayer when the FBI storm the room and take them into custody. And later, an exhausted Miller and Einstein meet up at the airport. He says it was all Agent Mulder, and she says that Miller is the one who kept the boy alive. And I like that she said, she realized that he's better than this, that he's not as bad as she thought he was, and that he really is capable of helping them out. And the pair shares a moment, talking in vagaries about their experiences. It's a really nice scene. I like seeing these two bond, and then we cut right to a scene with Mulder and Scully. At a country house, Mulder checks himself finding two either bruises or hickeys on his upper chest. Really funny. I love that. And he doesn't know where they're from, obviously. Very hangover-esque, which I liked. He heads out onto a chair on the porch where Scully pulls up in her SUV and asks him to talk to her. She asks him about his scheme, and Scully's impressed by Einstein's move with a placebo. She thinks it's very smart of her to do that. And the two muse on the nature of life, experience, love, and hate. A very good scene. I like that he talked about how maybe God is right, and maybe there is a God out there, and they need to believe in God, and things like that. It was just a really meaningful scene. I really like this. And they hold hands, walk down the stairs together, and, they start talking about religion and how important that is, and it's a really nice scene. I really did like that. I thought that was a really good scene that we saw there. And Mulder says that they need to start listening. They need to start listening to what they hear, and it's a really sweet scene, especially knowing what they're going through. The fact that, the fact that their son, William, is not there right now, and that they don't know where he is, of course, and that Scully's so concerned about him, even knowing that she could have had an alien baby. I mean, there's all that. They need to just put that aside. They need to move on, and I really like seeing that. I like seeing Mulder say, you know what, we need to move on from this. We need to, we need to move on. We need to start listening, and though, then what happens is Mulder hears a trumpet sound, but Scully doesn't, and that's how the episode ends. But overall, guys, a really strong episode. I really did love this episode, and I understand people could say that Einstein was just bitchy or whatever, but she was doing her job. She was really just a stricter Scully. She really was, and I like seeing that. I like seeing a younger version of Miller and of Mulder and Scully, but they weren't too different. I think Miller and Einstein were different enough. They did stand out, and I like their characters. I hope we see them again. I like seeing them on this. Definitely, I think some very good stuff that they did with their characters, and like I said, I really did enjoy them. But what is going on? It looks like next week we're finally going to get the reveal of if Mulder is crazy or not. But here's the thing. They said season finale. They did not say series finale. They said season finale. So, if we find out if Mulder's crazy or not, what's the reason for the show to continue? That doesn't really make sense to me if this is the season finale. That doesn't really make sense to me if they're really going to do that, because there's no reason to do that, really. I mean, that's kind of pointless, honestly, if they do that. But we are going to get the answer, like, where's William? I believe we're going to see William next week and find out what happened to him. We're going to find out if, Scully is an alien. We're going to find out that stuff. That definitely is going to be very interesting to see what's going on there. But is Mulder crazy? I don't think he is, because he heard that trumpet sound, but Scully doesn't. So what does Mulder have that Scully doesn't? It's clear that there's something that Mulder has that Scully just doesn't, and that definitely is going to put us right into next week. Definitely looking forward to seeing what's going on there. Let's talk about the Smoking Man, a character that I think has been incredibly underused. Is he really going to do anything this season? I mean, like I said, he was introduced last week, and next week's episode is called My Struggle Part 2, which is basically like the first episode, except it's in Scully's perspective and things like that. Tad O'Malley's going to come back, which I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there. The first episode, yes, has been probably the weakest episode of this season, but I thoroughly still enjoyed that episode. I didn't think it was a bad episode by any means. But the Smoking Man, what is he going to do here? Is he going to play a role? Are we going to see him again in next week's episode? I'm not really sure. I hope we do. I'm hoping that we see the Smoking Man, because that'd be really cool if we did. But I don't know if we're going to see him. I just really am hoping that we do see him, because that'd be really cool if we did. But like I said, I really do hope that we get an answer as to if Scully sees William again. I hope we get an answer to that, because that's going to be really good to see. And I'm looking forward to see what happens there if she does see him. I really love seeing Mulder's trip. That was just really funny. I definitely really like seeing that. Einstein and Miller. Are we going to see these two again? I hope we do. I like these characters, and as we know, Miller is just as curious as Mulder. He wants answers. He wants to believe. Einstein doesn't believe at all. Scully, though, is starting to, because she knows that she tested positive for alien DNA. So she could be an alien for all she knows, and obviously she wants those answers, and I'm hoping that she gets those, because I want things to go really well for Scully, and I want to get the answers that she desires. But overall, guys, great episode. I really did enjoy it. It was very funny at points. Sure, the case going on might not have been the most interesting thing in the world, but I think because of Miller and Einstein, that really adds to it. Just bringing these two characters, getting to see them work with Scully and Mulder, and showing that they were kind of like younger versions of them, I really like seeing. I don't think that they were too, same. I thought that Miller had some stuff to him that Mulder didn't, which I like. Like, Miller had a way of, knowing Arabic, which that's not something that Mulder knows, so that was interesting. And then Einstein being more of a hard ass than Scully was. I mean, Einstein really was a hard ass. She did not take nonsense. She did things she was very strict about her job. She took it very seriously. And I think Scully does as well, but Scully just like Einstein says, she puts up with Mulder because she loves him. Einstein does not feel the same way about Miller. You can tell she doesn't, and I like that. I like they didn't try to make them exactly the same. That would have been annoying if they did. But overall, guys, I know you guys saw this episode. Like I said, I really did love this episode. I cannot wait for next week's finale. I can't believe we're already on the finale next week. I really can't, but we are on the finale next week. That's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. And also, guys, I want to know some things about the trip. Like, he saw he didn't just see the smoking man in that trip. He saw other things. Like, he saw the lone gunman. Are we going to see him next week? I mean, I feel like a lot of this is foreshadowing things. I don't know exactly what's foreshadowing, but I feel like that does have to do with the rest of the season. Those of you guys saw this episode. I will see you guys in my next year, which will be for the season premiere of Better Call Saul, which I cannot wait for. You guys know how much I love Better Call Saul, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.